Yes, let's continue with Waec 2019 Physics Parts question number 4. The induced current in a coil always flow in a direction so as to oppose the change that causes it. This statement is known as A. Coulomb's law, B. Lenz's law, C. Faraday's law, D. Amperes law. So which of these scientists made this very statement that the induced current in a coil always flow in the direction so as to oppose the change that causes it? So for you to understand it, we are going to give the statements of these various people. So I'm going to start with Faraday's law. Faraday's law states that whenever there is change in magnetic lines of force, so whenever there is a change in magnetic lines of force or EMF, EMF is induced whenever there is change in magnetic force. Okay, let me state it very clear. So whenever there is change in magnetic lines, there is what we call EMF produced, and this induced EMF, the strength is proportional to the rate of change of the flux. So it's proportional to the rate of change of the flux. So that is Faraday's law. Now let's look at Lenz's law. Lenz's law states that the induced EMF, this very induced EMF moves in such a direction so as to oppose the motion of the change producing it. So it moves in such a direction so as to do what? Oppose the direction of the very change in flux producing it. So you can see that this is actually the statement that you're looking for. It's just the same thing. Now moving further, for us to understand other ones, talk about the Coulomb's law. The Coulomb's law simply states that the electrical force between two charged objects is directly proportional to the product of the quantity of charge on the object and inversely proportional to the square root of the separating distance. So we have that the force, electrical force, is directly proportional to the what? Charge objects. You understand? And also inversely proportional to the what? Distance, square root of the distance between them. So if you are combining it, you have F to be equal to K Q1 Q2 all over D2. So that is Coulomb's law. And finally, we'll talk about Amperes law, which states that for any closed loop path, the sum of the length of elements times the magnetic field in the direction of the length of the element is equal to the permeability times the electric current enclosing the loop. So you have a statement that goes like this. So when there is a change, this is the formula that summarizes the statement of Amperes law. So very importantly, this B here, or summation B, is the sum of the length element. The L here is equal to the magnetic field in the direction of the length of the element. Then this is the permeability, and finally I is the what? Electric current. So those are the various statements of the various laws. So when we are talking about Coulomb's law, we're talking about the relationship between the electrical force and the charges producing them, as well as the distance between the electrical force. When you're talking about Lenz's law, that's when you talk about the induced EMF or the induced current in the coil always flowing in a direction so as to oppose the change that is producing it. You're talking about Faraday's law, you're talking about the EMF produced being directly proportional to the flux producing it and inversely proportional to the time. Then when you're talking about Amperes law, we're talking about a closed loop where the sum of the lengths of the element times the magnetic field in the direction of the length element is equal to the permeability times the electric current closed in the loop. So the right option here is Lenz's law. So please hit the subscribe button if you like our videos. Always drop your comments in the comment section if you have any questions to ask. Thank you and God bless you.